welcome to Project Geospatial. I'm Adam Simmons, and here with me for this special episode is Kevin Corbley. And before we get into who Kevin Corbley is, I just want to talk real quick about what this show is. This is the GeoINT pre-event show. That's right, the GeoINT Symposium, the GeoINT 2021 Symposium. It's happening in St. Louis, Missouri next week, October 5th through 8th. And we're going to be there, and there's going to be a lot of people there. And it's going to be the first symposium, physical symposium, in 2 years. So in Project Geospatial, we decided to do is do a pre-event show. We might have a couple of guests come on and that you're going to watch over the next couple days or leading up to the symposium. So be sure to check that out. And also be sure to check out Courtney's Hot Spots Around St. Louis that we just published earlier. And so when you're visiting, you can see all the awesome restaurants while you're checking out the event. So with that said, let's get into the topic and talk about GeoINT and past GeoINT symposiums with Kevin Corbley here. Kevin, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
All right, great, Adam. Well, thank you very much for having me, first of all. And I'm Kevin Corbley. I own a company called Corbley Communications, which is a marketing communications, public relations, and just overall strategic communications company. And I started my business back in '93, so I've been at it for a while, but I've been in the geospatial industry even longer than that. I actually started my career at EOSat way back in '89. And by the way, speaking of EOSat, which ran the Landsat program, just less than an hour ago, Landsat 9 was launched successfully, and I think they're just coming up on the separation of the satellite from the spacecraft here in just, I don't know, maybe a matter of minutes. So anyway, good news about Landsat. We're happy to hear that. And so my business, again, pretty standard marketing communications, do a lot of strategizing for geospatial companies, especially startup firms. I was on the startup teams as a consultant with space imaging, Orb Image, GeoEye, Digital Globe, Rapid Eye. I've worked for all RadarSat, so I've worked in a lot of the startup modes for geospatial. Obviously, those are satellite operators there. So and in terms of GeoINT, I've been to many GeoINTs as an attendee, also helping a number of my clients with their exhibits. And most recently, the past several years, I've been running the press room for USGIF under contract. So, but I'm not here as a spokesman for the USGIF. I'm just here to talk about GeoINT as an industry veteran.
Awesome. Now, so a long time geospatial industry professional, you've seen a lot, and so let's talk about what has kept you into the industry so long.
Wow, that's a great question. And I think what a lot of people do not know about me, because I am in marketing and communications, I actually do have a technical background. My degree is in remote sensing geology from a little school in Indiana called Notre Dame. And so I do have a technical background. I've always enjoyed the industry. And I have so many friends and colleagues from being in the industry for over 30 years now. Every time I go to a show like GeoINT or the Esri conference or Energio in Germany, it's like a family reunion for me. I just look forward to it just for the social aspect, as well as obviously the networking and educational aspects. But I just like getting out and seeing the people that I've worked with for 3 decades.
Awesome. So turning back on the symposium for a second, what was the first GeoINT symposium you attended? Was that the first one?
No, I didn't make it to the first one. I was maybe I'm thinking the third or in there, and I think the first one I went to was either New Orleans or San Antonio. I really don't remember which. But the thing that I remember most about and hearing about the first one and the second one, although I wasn't there, they were like instant successes. I mean, the USGIF, the creation of that foundation, which is the U.S. Geospatial Intelligence Foundation, just obviously filled such a niche. It was such a great idea, and they got a lot of really good people on board to run it right from the start. But the show itself, it just took off right from the beginning.
So talk about the players back then. Who were you looking at in terms of VIPs that showed up? What kind of companies were back then? Because obviously the imagery, the satellite collection business wasn't as big as it was back then either, as well as a lot of the analytics companies. It's just the industry's exploded. But what was it like at the second or third GeoINT that you attended?
Yeah. And this is really important. Back then, at least this is the way I remember it, the show was dominated by the big players, right? The big companies, and in a lot of cases, not just the big companies that are geospatial companies, but I'm talking, the SAICs and the Lockheed Martins, the ones at least back then you would not have specifically associated with geospatial, right? They're just big government contractors, and they dominated the show. And more recently, this is the way that the show, and I think the foundation has evolved, and I think NGA has evolved this way as well, is that there are a lot more small businesses involved right now in GeoINT and in the US GIF. And that's such a great thing. I've had companies literally say to me, like, in the last 5 years, say, I'm not going to go to GeoINT, I'll just get lost there. And no, that's not true at all. They have made it a point, the way they lay out the exhibit hall. They have special tabletops for the small businesses. I don't know what the pricing is, but I know it's a lot cheaper than the booths for the bigger companies. And they make it so, depending on where the show is, usually when you go through the registration, you have to go through the small business corridor. And so they get a lot of visibility. And I just think it is so great. It's just been great. I know for a fact it's been great for some of my clients who either were small or are small or were small back then. But boy, GeoINT has helped them a lot to get notoriety and just get noticed by those bigger companies.
So what were the issues we're talking about that were in the beginning of the first symposiums? What were the, was it talking about imagery policies or how to collect or what kind of technologies were we messing with, 10 or 15 years ago?
Yeah, we have seen such an evolution. There were a lot of themes back then, but one of the themes that was constant for the industry, especially in the intelligence community, was just not enough data, right? I mean, there weren't enough satellites up, and not enough companies doing it. And now look, here we are, fast forward 15, 16 years. And what's the story? It's too much data. How are we going to handle all this data, right? It's a tsunami of data. This is what we're hearing all the time. We have to, fortunately, artificial intelligence has really evolved. Again, I'm going to keep using that term, evolved, to help us handle all this data. But that's the trend in terms of the thematic change, is going from, hey, we don't have enough data, to, oh my gosh, we've got too much data, and it's coming in different directions and different volumes and different varieties. And those are all problems right there. And of course, they're big data problems. And so that's what we're dealing with right now. And I think the industry as a whole is doing a great job applying these new technologies to help make sense of this flood of data that's coming in.
Do you have any good stories from years ago? Like how, what happened there? Obviously a lot happens at GeoINT, right? Maybe not all of it stays at GeoINT, but
right.
Any good stories?
I have never witnessed anything myself. So given that I was a journalist years ago, I don't work on hearsay and rumor, but there certainly were stories about how much fun the what did they used to call it? The GeoINT walk or something?
The Geowalks?
GeoWalk, yeah.
I believe, for everybody's reference, they originally shut that down back in 2000, and I want to say it was 2012. Was New Orleans. That was the last official GeoWalk.
Really? Okay. All right. And I mean, yeah, it's just a lot of fun. The one I remember the most was at, it was actually Halloween at, I think it was 2013. It was when we had the shutdown of the government, and that caused the GeoINT to get off cycle. It had been in like May, June, and instead it ended up in October. And it was in Nashville at the, I think that I forget the name of that big hotel there, but it was really a neat venue. And I remember just people dancing on the dance floor, and they had Halloween themes. It was a ball. It was really a lot of fun.
I'll correct myself. 2010 was the New Orleans one. They shut the GeoWalks down, so even further back. And that happened to be my first GeoINT symposium.
Was
by the
it?
way.
Okay. Well, maybe
Yeah,
you got the stories then, Adam. I think I might have missed that one. I don't remember. But yes, I mean, yeah, I mean, in San Antonio, and this is not unique to GeoINT. I think whenever there's a conference in San Antonio, somebody ends up in the river on the Riverwalk.
In the Riverwalk. No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah. But keep it fun, interesting, and relevant to the conversation here. GeoINT is, you're right, it's significantly involved, but it also has kept pace with the industry as a whole. Technology has evolved significantly, not just with the imagery providers, but the analytics companies. But even I would say 10 to 15 years ago, we didn't even hear hints of this thing called AI and machine learning these days. So that hasn't been, I would say, probably spoken of until the last probably 5 or 6 years within some of these symposiums, and really kicked up steam. What would you say is the biggest technology that was seen 10 or 15 years ago as opposed to today?
I was thinking about that, and I would say, drones have really become so prevalent. And I don't know if drones were being used in the intelligence community, and we didn't know about it in the commercial sector, but certainly drones are the story everywhere. In commercial, the private sector, the public sector, the whole thing. That's really been another factor that has changed our industry again. Whether you're talking private or public sector, drones have really changed the economics of data collection in a big way, and the immediacy of data collection. So that's been another storyline that maybe now, I guess drones are kind of old hat now, but certainly, going back 6, 7, 8 years ago, boy, that was really a time for change.
Well, they've essentially grown into their own industry. Does it make sense to have a corner of it carved out at GeoINT for drones? I actually think so, just because of how they're natural imagery collectors. But on the other hand, they got tons of conferences themselves, and just shows how the industry has not only grown but branched out in so many different directions. It's hard to focus on just generically on one area anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what you just mentioned about having a special part of the hall, or just maybe some tracks on drones. Energio, which is another great conference in Germany. I wasn't able to go this year, but they have an outdoor demo area set up at their conference now, where they do literally drone demos, flight demos. So you're right. That's been a game changer.
Well, that's absolutely. So the drones going from back then and all the way down to machine learning and explosion of satellite imagery collectors these days. In terms of what are you looking forward to the most in this GeoINT symposium, and or I should say, what have you looked forward to the most in the last couple of years? Seeing, especially since we formally missed the last one.
Yeah, no, and I can tell you what I'm looking forward to the most about this year's show is just going out and getting out of my office and seeing colleagues again. For me, this will be my first really professional event that I've traveled to in close to 2 years now. So I'm just excited the fact that we're having it, and I want to say that as the press room manager, I do interact with a lot of the exhibitors and the media, and there's an excitement this year that I just don't recall in the past several years. I mean, it's beyond normal, and I think it's just a matter of everybody is so excited to be getting out of their offices and getting back out and seeing their colleagues, their friends, their potential clients, their clients, and all that. So there's a lot of excitement. And the numbers, by the way, are looking great for this year's GeoINT. They just sent me over a couple of them. So there are about 210 speakers this year. There's 172 exhibitors, which for me personally, I didn't expect there to be that many. About 2 years ago, the last time we had GeoINT, I think we topped out just over 250, maybe 260. And I was figuring that after COVID this year, we were going to come in and we'd be lucky if we got half of that, like 125 or so. But here we are at 172 exhibitors lined up for next week. So that's great. And then there's hours of training. And I hear a lot of the training sessions, by the way, are full or getting full. So if you're interested in those, better get on the GeoINT website and pin down a seat for yourself. And there are over 2,000 registered attendees, and that is climbing rapidly, which I think we figured, or USGIF figured would happen, that a lot of people were kind of waiting just to see how everything went before they registered for it. And now that things are looking good with COVID, that a lot of people are registering and planning to be there. So I'm sure they're making last minute flight arrangements and all the rest of it.
So I actually have some numbers here for you real quick because I ran some. 2019, there were, hold on here, I do have it. There were 220 registered exhibitors.
Oh, okay.
That's what I have anyway. This is from, because we were there kind of keeping track of things as well. At least we were trying. We might not have the final number compared to you, but it's, and you're right. 100. I mean, you had the latest numbers for this year, so drop to 170 isn't actually too bad considering that we have 18 months have passed. We've seen conferences for other reasons drop significantly more than that. So we have, let's see, according to our records here, maybe around close to 89 to returning companies, as well as close to another 80 new companies as opposed to the previous year. So I'm not going to say they're first time company attendees, but they're just who weren't there in 2019.
Got it. That's amazing. That's a significant number to me, though. That's great.
That's like a 50%. That's a 50%. New and returning. That's kind of crazy.
Yep.
So I would say that's a mass improvement. So let's take a step back here. What do you think about this brand new venue, this brand new city into the mix, St. Louis?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. It's such a great choice, and the reason I say that is because NGA, of course, has just opened a brand new facility there, and the city of St. Louis is behind NGA and the geospatial industry 120%, as they say. St. Louis is pulling out all the stops. They're very smart business people, obviously, in St. Louis to capitalize on what they see as a growth industry, which is the geospatial industry. This will be my first time at this venue, so I'm sure it's very nice. I really have not been there, so I don't know exactly. I've seen the plans for the exhibit hall, but I don't know exactly what the layout will be. I know that there's going to be a reception down the street at the ballpark complex. What do they call Ballpark Village? And that'll be on October 5th, on Monday, October 5th. Is that right? Is the 5th Monday, or is that?
I don't have the dates in front of me for the actual events, but I know that's
Tuesday. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's Tuesday. And then the exhibits open that next morning on the 6th. So, but anyway, so there'll be that party or reception there. So I'm just amazed at what St. Louis. You and I talked about it a little bit off screen before we started. St. Louis is seeing NGA as a foothold into the geospatial industry. They are doing all kinds of business development activities. They've got an accelerator set up. I'm looking forward to learning more about what they're doing. I'm actually going to be meeting with some of the St. Louis officials when I get there, and I'm just very impressed. They're very organized, and clearly they want to make St. Louis the North American hub of geospatial activities.
And this isn't the only year that the symposium is going to take place here. For now on, we're going to see a recurring appearance of not just the symposium, just because of the new construction going on with NGA West. It just makes sense that we're going to keep coming back to St. Louis once every few years, right?
Yeah, it's impressive, and So as far as I know, this is the first time that GeoINT has ever been in St. Louis. And don't forget, though, in 6 months, or just a little more than 6 months, we're going to have Energio 2022 right here in Denver. I'm in the south side.
Energio or GeoINT?
Sorry,
Because I know the next GeoINT symposium, Kevin, the next GeoINT symposium is going to be in April 24th to the 27th.
In Denver. Pardon me. Yeah. Not Energio. There's there's too many geos in this industry. So you're right. GeoINT is here in Denver. Just in
and
about
every other year after that is the GeoINT symposium in St. Louis. So in 2023 and 2025, the current schedule has back in St. Louis. So that just shows what kind of, we'll call it, new Western hub of geospatial St. Louis is becoming, right?
Absolutely. And from everything I hear, actually, and what I hear, I've been talking to Courtney, your colleague, about all the great restaurants and bars and all the rest of it that downtown area right around the convention center has. It sounds like it's a great place for a conference.
It definitely is. It'll, I am not going to criticize certain cities, but there are definitely some that are better than others. And I would say that St. Louis is a pleasant add-on to the list. So I can't wait to see what comes to the table this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that said, do you have any other final thoughts of wisdom for first timers attending GeoINT, or, things that you'd recommend people just make sure they check out,
Yeah, I've always been a believer. I mean, obviously you go to the sessions to educate yourself, find out what's happening, not just with the industry, but with the technology. You're never going to get a fresher education about what's happening in terms of technology than at a show like GeoINT. And I would say, though, for a first timer, especially the younger people coming to these things, go to every, first of all, spend a lot of time in the exhibit hall, spend a lot of time there, talk to people, introduce yourself. And then after hours, go to as many of the receptions and a lot of companies will be having receptions, and then there'll be officially organized events, social events. So go to all those. I'm sure there's probably breakfasts and lunches and stuff like that. So anyway, just go to as many of those. Fill your agenda for 4 days in St. Louis and meet as many people as you can. Take your business cards and hand them out wherever you can. Again, I'm speaking to the younger people right now. Maybe have not been to a trade show in a while, but
could be 50% of those companies are brand new, right?
Could be. Yeah.
It's been 2 years, and then I think there is a natural new company progression, in the symposium. So if we skipped a year, who knows? That maybe that's all coming from that. Just that natural growth. But regardless, you're right. New people aside, anybody new to the industry, or even military getting out who've never experienced the industry, I always say that GeoINT is in some ways, it's like our pilgrimage. Go at least once in your lifetime, and you'll know at least what the entire industry is all about. At least for a snapshot for a couple of years, you'll truly understand. If you've kind of had this kind of soda straw perspective of your career, all of a sudden it just exploded and you see what's going on.
Yeah, that's a great point. It really is. And again, it's more than the workshops and the keynote addresses, although those are very important and there's some really good speakers lined up. But it's socializing, and that's why I've gone to these for the most part for years. Again, not just at GeoINT, but the other trade shows. And one thing I really want to mention also is for people, before you head off to St. Louis, check out the COVID protocols that are posted very prominently on the GeoINT website, just so you can be aware of what to expect when you arrive in St. Louis.
And for clarification, everybody will be required now to bring proof of vaccination. I'm assuming they're going to be checking that upon getting their badges. That sounds like how it's going to work, right?
Yes. And if you've not been vaccinated, I believe you have to show a negative test result within, I believe it's 48 hours before you depart for the show. So you need to take that into account. And also what I've been told is that they're assured is that all the workers, the many people in the background who make things like this show happen, food service people as well as people setting up exhibit booths, they also have to abide by all the same rules.
So I should have asked this right in the beginning, but this will be my final question for you, Kevin. And so, in your own words, how would you describe what the GeoINT Symposium is? This actually might be a good final note for everybody listening.
I know. I should have jotted down some notes on this. This is just the coming together of a terrific industry with a lot of really bright people, and it's everybody. It's the techie people, it's the business people, the marketing people, the sales people. Everybody gets together and they exchange knowledge, and that's really what it's all about. Both in the formal settings and the informal settings. So when you go to a show like GeoINT, be prepared to learn, because this industry is changing so quickly, as we've just discussed. I kept using that word evolution. It's going to keep changing. This is the way you keep up with that. So that's what GeoINT is all about: is the coming together of the brightest minds in the geospatial industry, the intelligence community, sharing information.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Kevin, for joining me for this discussion. It's been a great first introduction into the GeoINT pre-event show, and hopefully I have many more guests talking about what GeoINT was and how it's become what it is today. I once again appreciate you. Be sure to say hi to Kevin if you see him over on the symposium floor next week in St. Louis. And so with that said, this is Adam Simmons with Kevin Corbley signing off. Thank you very much, everybody.
Great. Thanks, Adam.